Hello, people of YouTube land. Hello to those that are a part of Ted and Mike's Discord.
Fair.
Is that what we're gonna say?
Fuck it, dude. You run the intro. This is all you, dog.
I need help. Fuck. Where was I? Oh yeah, and the people who follow Ted and I on Twitch, and hello to whoever's listening to this on Spotify or wherever we decide to put this on. I'm Traductus.
And I'm Ted.
And this is, so far, the Untitled Movie Review Podcast, where we take a director's filmography and review each movie one by one, go over the background info of it, and talking about what we like and dislike about the movie. And as you can see, we are still covering Sam Raimi's filmography, and today we are reviewing A Simple Plan. Now, A Simple Plan, not to be confused with the pop punk band named after this movie and the novel that this movie is an adaptation of. Can you believe this was a book?
I love old tropes.
But yeah, the movie was released in 1998. Oddly enough, Simple Plan was formed in 1999. I thought they were older than that. Holy shit.
No, I think that first album was 99.
Yeah. But anyway, this was released September 11th, 1998 at TIFF. And it was then released in December 11th for a limited release in theaters. A Simple Plan had a budget of $17 million and had a profit of $16.3 million. So, obviously not as much as the last movie, but of course, this had a limited theatrical release. So, and as stated previously before, this movie is based off of a novel that was published in 1993, and like the last movie that we reviewed, Sam Raimi was a hired gun. Now, this movie was made due to producer Mike Nichols. He was reading a short story from like the author of the book that Simple Plan. A Simple Plan is based off of. Fuck, I actually thought I wrote that into the script who the author's name was, but we'll get there. But anyway, the producer saw like a short story in the New Yorker and really liked that, got a hold of the author, and found out that the author was writing a book, which was, A Simple Plan. So the book wasn't even like written yet, or like finished yet, before like Mike Nichols ended up buying the rights to the movie rights to the thing. Scott Smith is the novel writer. Okay, Scott B. Smith. Oh, I did write it in there. Okay, and the project ended up being picked up by Savoy Pictures, who produced A Bronx Tale and John Waters' Serial Mom. Which, by the way, Ted, Conley had a suggestion of us reviewing John Waters movies. I don't know if we're going to be able to do that.
Yeah, I don't know about that one, Chief.
But I just figured to have a little bit of comedy in there to throw everything off track, as this has to be scuffed.
Naturally.
But after Savoy Pictures picks up the movie, Ben Stiller was set to direct the movie, with the author Scott B. Smith set to write the script. And Stiller actually gave Smith advice on how to write the movie script, just because like Scott Smith never wrote a movie script before, and he actually said he learned a lot from Ben Stiller. However, Ben Stiller left production due to the fact that there was disputes over budget. So then Savoy ends up bringing in John Dahl to direct the movie, and they have somebody cast for the lead role of Hank Mitchell, and that being Nicolas Cage.
Dude, you have no idea how much more incredible this fucking movie would have been with Nicolas Cage, dude. Like, as much as I shit on that dude as an actor, like, bro, this movie would have gone fucking tenfold. Like, 100% he was the right choice.
That being said, due to previous box office bombs, Savoy Pictures went out of business before this movie got made. And then the project ended up getting sold to Paramount, and therefore that ended up removing Dahl and Cage from the project. But under Paramount, they end up getting like another producer, Scott Rudin. He casts director John Boorman to direct the movie, and with John Boorman being the director, he casts Bill Paxton and Billy Bob Thornton as for the roles of Hank Mitchell and Jacob Mitchell. Bill Paxton actually said that while getting this role, he considered it like a role of a lifetime. And unfortunately, though, after scouting locations, Boorman also had to leave production due to scheduling conflicts, and the movie was almost scrapped. And Bill Paxton actually described the whole ordeal as, you get the role of a lifetime, and all of a sudden it just gets ripped right away from you. However, Sam Raimi comes to the rescue because he finds out that this movie's being made and wants to have a movie that's actually more character based, as opposed to previously with movies that are more campy and using a lot of intricate camera shots.
I was going to disagree with you on camp there for a second, because Quick of the Dead, and it's got characters, but when you explain it more thoroughly, yeah, I'm with you.
Right. Yeah, he wanted something a little bit more serious, as opposed to what was normally known for at the time. Now, that being said, for the role of Sarah ends up getting cast by the producer Scott Rudin. He originally was going to cast Anne Hesh, but the role ends up being given to Bridget Fonda, and the role of Lou Chambers goes to Brent Briscoe. And due to Raimi being set to direct the film, composer and musician Danny Elfman, who you would know for the guy that does a lot of the music for the Tim Burton movies, and who also worked with Raimi previously, Danny Elfman requests to actually do the music for this movie, and then ends up getting the role of composer for that. And that being said, due to the timeline that they have left to actually get this movie right off from the get-go, they did not have time to find other scouting locations, so Raimi just used the locations that John Boorman scouted. And on top of that, they did a lot of experimentation with a lot of the lighting, since a lot of this was filmed in the winters, and they wanted to basically show emphasis on the overcast, making it seem like a dingy and doomed endeavor. And oddly enough, so that we had consistency with the overcast, they used CG, which I did not notice.
It wasn't quite noticeable based on the setting, but it does make sense, honestly.
Right. Oh, and apparently they also had a use of actual snow and fake snow, which obviously they just basically turned they just used shaved ice for the fake snow.
Fair.
That being said, that's basically all I have for background. So I guess we'll go into plot.
Perfect. So imagine Hallmark meets Old Yeller. Like I could stop there, but to give a more thorough advance. So basically, it's near and around Christmas time. This guy is going to put flowers on his mother's grave. His brother drives him there, and then the dog runs
With your
away.
alcoholic friend.
Yeah, we're getting to the alcoholic. He's my favorite. Spoiler, that's a lie. Yeah. So his brother drives him. They bring this other buddy. The dog runs out of the back of the truck to chase a fucking squirrel or raccoon or whatever the fuck.
Fox, I think it was.
Whatever the fuck it was. It was insignificant. They run into this crashed plane. They find $4.5 million in this crashed plane, and then it's how immoral can I be where my wife will still love me? I can swindle my friends and keep $4.5 million. Who cares who dies for it? And that's the plot.
Pretty much. And oddly enough, like I guess like the plot of the book, like I guess the book is a hell of a lot more violent, and when Hank's character is more evil, which I'm just like, how can you make a character more fucking evil? Like the author goes, well, he's more like, logical as opposed to like just being like really evil. And it's like, I don't get how him being logical makes him like
I
not any less evil.
I get it. So when they first discover the money, it seems kind of like logical that like, hey, I should keep the money so none of these dumbasses can swindle me out of my shit or ruin this for me, right?
Right.
It's logic. I understand that if you're able to write in a book the character's inner thoughts, how this could be much more selfish, evil, conceited. Like I get it.
Yeah,
I think
and
that just lends itself to the book.
Apparently, Bridget Fonda's character has more of a role in the book, and then Billy Bob Thornton's character has less of a role. But like one of the producers wanted the movie that's surrounded more around Hank and Jacob, as opposed to Hank and his wife.
Which makes sense for the course of the movie.
Yeah. Sorry for interrupting you.
No, you're fine. I think it makes more sense for us to flow into likes and dislikes. And alternative to last week, I think likes is a shorter list, so it's a smarter place to start. I'm gonna let you have at it.
So likes is a shorter list for you in this?
By a lot.
Wow. Here, I thought you actually liked this movie.
I didn't say I didn't like it, but my dislikes list is longer.
Oh, okay. After like kind of like noticing like certain different things, like apparently who the fuck is what was I saying? Like the guy's name is Brent Briscoe, who plays like the drunk guy. Apparently it was his idea to find the plane by throwing a snowball at it, as opposed to them just walking to it for like dramatic effect. So I think that's kind of cool how like there's a little bit of like improvising at the time. I will say that overall the acting's pretty solid, especially that from Billy Bob Thornton. Especially like the scene where like they're fucking over like he's fucking over his friend Lou, because you think like he's siding with Lou to fuck over his brother, and then it just turns where you're just like, oh shit. Like
I'm gonna push on that a little. I won't say that the acting is necessarily superb. I think the characters flow well, but I think it's really easy to write a moron. So, not that the acting's bad, I just think the characters lend itself more forward than the portrayals do.
All right, that makes sense. I have to say, like the characters, honestly, are very interesting. For the most part, like
except for fucking Bridget Fonda, dude.
Yeah, Bridget Fonda just goes from like, oh, I'm such a goody two shoes to like a complete conniving bitch.
I don't care if my husband's evil if I have money. Fuck off. Fuck right off.
I like also the fact that Billy Bob Thornton only has like 2 decisions that are his own idea in this.
Fair.
Everything else that he has is someone else's idea. And if I remember right, a lot of like Bill Paxton's like ideas aren't his own either.
Kind of fair.
So it's like they're both kind of being manipulated. And then it ends to like with Billy Bob Thornton's death, which was one of the few decisions that's his own, and also Bill Paxton arguably getting a fate worse than death.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of interesting, like how it's different, like how everybody's basically has like some sort of like motivation to manipulate the other, with the exception of Billy Bob Thornton, who seems to be the only one that's mostly innocent.
And it's just because he's a moron.
Yeah.
It's not because he's innocent, it's because he's stupid.
Right. And I think probably the big one with this is, one, this could go 2 different ways, which is that they either all turn on each other, and that's the movie of them just turning on each other with the money, or the guy whose money it is hunts them down one by one. And I like how it ends up being both, if that makes sense. Like, granted, like the emphasis is them turning on each other at the beginning, but then that gets thrown into it, which adds another like layer of like anxiety.
Fair.
And also, probably the best thing about this is that the whole entire plan, for how simple it is, all they had to do was sit and wait on the money, and then once they notice that like they can't use the money, they just burn it. Like, it's literally a simple freaking plan, but the funny thing is that there was no way in hell that they were gonna be able to use that goddamn money, because like the FBI wrote down the serial numbers of it. So like after all this,
there is nothing on earth that makes me happier than an overarching sense of justice, despite how much I hate justice. Like, for a movie plot, there's nothing on earth that is fucking better, right? Like, okay, I just have to beat the idiots. Seems easy. The idiots fuck it up. Okay, I just have to avoid anybody searching for it. Well, that means murdering a bad guy and a cop. Well, I guess the only thing I have to do now is sit and wait for the investigation. It's marked. Fuck. Guess I better burn it. And I've also pissed off my wife by telling her, which is literally the first sentence of "don't fuck this up" plotline dialogue that he uses. There's this overarching sense of, no matter if you're the protagonist, please politely go fuck yourself one by one. It is the most satisfying thing ever that this dude gets fucking nothing except murdering his brother. Like, he has to Old Yeller his brother in order to come away with money, and he still fucking gets none. It's the best fucking feeling, dude.
And he kills he kills quite a few people in this. So he not only has a guilty conscience, his wife's mad at him, his brother's dead, because like his brother tells him to shoot him.
His fucking wife tells him, "I will hate you without the money." And he goes, "Okay, whatever it takes to keep this and my happy life." And then in turn, he murders his brother, burns the money after assaulting his wife, because he doesn't get to keep it and is forced to stay in the shitty, unhappy marriage where she told him she would be unhappy. He ruins the closest person to him in the world and his brother because he Old Yellered the fuck out of him, all right? And he gets nothing. That sense of justice, dude, gave me this swooning fucking butterflies in my chest feeling of happiness that I haven't experienced in a movie in years.
Fucking-lutely. Like that is literally one of the best movie endings that I've ever seen.
The best. The best. You fucked everything up and now you get nothing, and we wrote a whole movie to laugh at you. Like, that's the fucking best. That was my big takeaway was like the idea that like the sense of justice at the end. My other big takeaway, which you've kind of already touched on, Stallman, the ending of this crushes. It is for as many negatives that I have to say about the development of this movie and how we get to the end. It is one of the best written endings I have ever experienced in a movie that I otherwise would not enjoy. If there is any other outcome other than this one, I can probably tell you that I am 2 thumbs down on this movie, but the ending's like, but you should. Like, the ending was so fucking good, dude. I honestly, with all you described, Stallman, as far as director changes and writing and a book and like all of these different variables that went into it, I don't even know who to assign the credit to. Wherever the fuck this ending came from, they crushed it. It was absolutely flawless.
Yeah, I freaking agree. Like, especially since like they even like kind of allude to it and foreshadow it with like Billy Bob Thornton talking about like, with Bill Paxton going like, it's like, it's like our dad killed himself. It's like, what do you mean? It's like he killed himself. Like, you really don't think like he, missed that turn on a road that he always, Yeah. And with that, you keep on foreshadowing, and you also see like Billy Bob Thornton getting more and more miserable because like of like the freaking evil shit that Bill Paxton makes him freaking do, or makes him witness.
And even the foreshadowing doesn't lead you to the end; it leads you to the ending's gonna be bad, right?
Yeah.
Like, why bring up dad's suicide if you're not gonna do things the same way, right? But no, instead he lives and suffers. And that's so much better for the justice in this movie, right? Like, again, they're alluding to you get the bad ending. And you still aren't ready for it, even though they're telling you the bad ending is coming. It's good.
There's even a few things like you're not kind of like ready for things. Like, that they're gonna fuck over Lou, but you don't understand. But you didn't really like expect like his reaction of like grabbing a shotgun and then like. Then like Billy Bob Thornton having to kill him, and then Bill Paxton having to kill like Lou's wife. Like, that comes out of like nowhere, especially also like, even though like you alluded, it always alludes like this is going to end up being really, 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 really freaking bad, but like you never expect like how bad it's going to be. Sure. And it ends up being like
again the worst, like for sure. What else you got for likes? Because I'm having a moment.
Besides Billy Bob Thornton's performance, that's about it, which I've already said beforehand. I think Billy Bob Thornton, like, either how his character's written, I'm not sure if it's like how he acts it, but like kind of steals the movie.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I definitely think that he becomes a focal point when he's not intended to be. Again, I think part of that is the character's an idiot and it's easy to write, rather than Billy Bob Thornton is that exceptional. But
I think it's just because he's the only person that's mostly sympathetic.
That's fair. That's fair. You do build a soft spot to his character that you wouldn't to anybody else. That's 100% valid. I'm about to go off on dislikes. I need you to bear with me for a moment.
Can I go on one?
Yeah,
because I think we might agree on this. All right, Bill Paxton is literally the most fucking like shall we say polarizing actor, because like he'll go from like being really, really good to being complete dog shit in the same fucking movie, and I don't even
ridiculous. I don't even know that that's applicable to this movie, though, because I think he's just got this horrible flat affect in every single scene of this movie, except the one where he kills his brother, Old Yeller style. Like, I don't even know that I can give him credit for being good in a single moment of this. I think he's just bad. Okay. The place that I'm going to start with my dislikes, right, is the premise. Never, ever, ever in anything you fucking do conspire with idiots. Fucking never. Do you want to know the reason Stallman and I could never rob a fucking bank? Right? It's because we're both idiots and we're both liabilities to the other person. All right? If there's a bank robbery and people look at us as if we might be suspects because we're in the bank, like, holding guns, right? We're not a liability because we're idiots. We could never, we should never, we would never. Right? Like, do not plan things around dumb people. The moment they find the fucking money in the plane and you realize the two people you're with have a collective IQ of -10, stop it. Fucking do not. Second off,
it was the one that was like, hey, let's actually, like, you know,
and he turns
turn
on
it
himself
in.
to trust the idiots. That's the problem, right? Do not ever in anything you do conspire with idiots. We're going to further this along because once he gets the idiots to agree in his smartest of the stupid plans, okay, he comes home.
The idiots fuck it up right away.
No, and he's the fucking idiot because he tells his fucking wife by dumping $4.5 million on their fucking kitchen table. Do not ever in anything you do conspire with idiots. The only smart move that could have happened in this movie, based on what we now know about the characters, is his wife going, yeah, this dude's got $4.5 million he stole, and hoping for a reward. It's the only moment in this entire movie where a smart person could have prevailed. And then the fact that she didn't, and she's like, I hope you feel mentally stable with the murders you've committed, makes her a fucking idiot too. Everybody's dumb. Do not conspire with idiots. Don't do it. Stop. Okay. Next. Once we've gotten off of that point. You know that whole, like, premise of, well, at least it's not raining? That's how they wrote this movie. In that, hey, there's this bad thing and we overcame it, but what if it got worse? Oh shit, it's worse. And that's just how the whole movie progresses. In that similar fashion, right? I
think that honestly kind of what makes the movie good, though, is that it keeps getting worse.
Look, again, if it were executed better, I'd be okay with it. And I don't want to necessarily fault anybody in the final product of this movie because I know they had a short schedule, a limited budget, and they've changed staff 18 fucking times over, right? So I don't want to harp on any person in particular for their sense of responsibility, right? But in the final execution of this movie, it's that now what could go wrong gives you a lull, and then it gives you something worse. And when you're 12 minutes into the movie asking, now what can go wrong, and it gets wrong, of course you fucking know that. There's an hour and 40 minutes left in this movie, you fucking dipshit. Like, of course it's gonna get worse. Again, because you conspired with idiots. Beyond the point. I think the biggest detraction I have from the watching experience of this movie, the reason that in the plot description I called it a Hallmark mixed with Old Yeller, is because the plot is slow and they only make it worse for themselves.
Right.
Despite the amount of action that actually happens in this movie, every single plot point is driven by dialogue. There is a scene in which the third conspirator, the dumbest of the dumbasses, demands his money. They find a method to frame him. He gets angry about being framed and threatens to shoot Bill Paxton, right? The resolution to this scene is Bill Paxton's brother, Billy Bob Thornton, pulls out his rifle and shoots him on the porch. So now there's holes in the porch, there's blood all over the place, there's a dude with a gunshot wound. His wife gets angry, picks up his fucking gun, tries to shoot the Bill Paxton and Billy Bob Thornton, and then they kill her, and then they shoot up the house to make it look like a fucking murder scene. And despite all of the action I just described, it took them 14 whole ass minutes to get through it. And it still felt horribly unimportant because they just slowed everything so far fucking down.
Yeah.
They underplayed it. They just made it important to how do we push the plot forward from here with more dialogue, because it doesn't matter who's dead. I still need to be involved with idiots. And it's just like everything just goes to a fucking microscopically small, slow fucking speed. It's awful. They take the action and they ruin it by going at a snail's pace, dude.
Yeah, and the script was originally going to have this movie be 4 hours long. I'm glad that it's not 4 hours long, because like the biggest issue I do have with this movie is the pacing. It is a very, very slow burn.
It's
now, granted, the ending is worth it, but like you shouldn't be struggling like first watch throughout the entire thing just to like have like I can easily see, like, if we weren't doing this, I could picture Ted watching this and then stopping halfway through. And
I wouldn't have made it halfway. I would not have made it halfway. I'm going to be completely honest with you, right?
Right.
Think about, like, a stereotypical chick flick, right? In a movie in a movie style that is notoriously slower paced because it's dialogue driven, right? What happens in a chick flick, right, where a woman who is the protagonist gets cheated on? There's going to be a moment of a fast burst, anger, yelling, explosion, smacking him, whatever the fuck it is, right? Like, there's a moment where it is fast enough paced to get through the emotion of the moment. In all of the things that I just described, where two people died to gunshot wounds, there was the twist of multiple people who you didn't know having guns, picking them up, shooting other fucking people, blowing up the fucking house. They go, all right, this is how we get away with it, Billy Bob Thornton. You're going to tell them that you were going back to your truck when he got drunk and mad at his wife. And then he shot her. And it was too late. So we pulled out your rifle. And then we shot her. You got that? You got that? You got that? You got that, Billy Bob Thornton? You got that? Are you sure you've got that? He calls on the fucking phone with the least convincing sad phone call I've ever fucking heard. And then he goes, you got that, Billy Bob Thornton? You got that? You got that? I don't know about this one, Bill Paxton. You got that? You got that? We gotta do this. Think about the money. You got that? You got
Tell
that?
me about the rabbits again, George.
For as long as I'm fucking dragging this out, dude, you could read the entire Grapes of Wrath in between each of the you got that for the playing of the fucking movie. And
the funny thing is that this does kind of remind me of like of a Mice and Men a little bit too.
But and then you have to go through the whole fucking thing knowing damn well that don't conspire with idiots means I'm gonna have to fucking kill him. There's brothers, so there's gonna be strife involved. And they even drag that the fuck out, right? Like, it's just, it's so predictable, and it's so based on kill the stupid people and and the protagonist should suffer, and then all of the good parts that could make this movie more enjoyable, they slowed down to the point where you can't even enjoy the enjoyable parts. The execution on this movie was so fucking dog shit. All right, I think I'm done.
Yeah.
I think I'm done.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest issue is the pacing. If they would, like, abridge a few things,
or just speed up the fun parts.
Right?
I don't even think there's parts they need to skip. Like, I think everything in this adds value. I just think that,
no, I don't think they need to skip it, but they could at least, like, shorten, like, a lot of, like, the dialogue scenes.
The strife between him and his brother about his dad taking out the second mortgage to pay for college, or his dad's suicide, or whatever, right? Like Billy Bob Thornton's relationship with women, right? Like, I feel like all of this adds some value, and when you stretch those parts out to make them more dramatic, I think they're fine. It's the problem is you're comparing those to the action-filled scenes that happen even fucking slower than just dialogue. They need to make the action portions important enough that the action is important, rather than just focusing on, well, we have to talk through this scene too, duh. Like, that's the issue with the pacing.
Yeah. That being said, I really got nothing to add.
Yeah, I know I may have monologued here for a minute, so I'm sorry if I train roll any dislikes. The only other real thing I have to add is that It's a minor detraction compared to my other complaints. But when they introduce the guy searching for his money, the moment he asks, well, did you see his badge? You already know the way that the next 10 minutes are going to go because you know that there is no badge. Like, they introduce that to you instead of it being some sort of twist. And then cop fumbling with his gun, protagonist fumbling with his gun, like, is another slowdown to a scene that they made predictable, which would have otherwise been exciting. I guess it's kind of similar to the pace issue, but I do think that the execution of that was poor on so many places. They could have fixed that in 4 different ways at least. But that, again, it's minor. Let's get into rankings, Stallman. I went first last time, so it's all yours.
You're gonna hate me.
I'm not.
Number 1.
Really? Okay. It surprises me. It surprises me because I at least to me, I think the pace is enough of an obstruction that it would be hard to put this in front of Army of Darkness. But I don't disagree that it's a bad watch. So
yeah, I mean, to me, like, slow burns don't bother me. Ted knows this because, like, my favorite Kubrick film, was Barry Lyndon, and that was a huge slow burn. So to me, like, if the ending is worth it, like, I can get through a slow burn, and there really wasn't, like, a moment where I was bored. I was always just kind of, like, intrigued into, like, seeing how worse everything could get. And with how the ending happening that it was, which was an ending that I was not necessarily expecting. Like, I was expecting, like, maybe Bill Paxton was gonna... It probably didn't help that Ted's gonna go, Bill Paxton's gonna kill himself like his dad did.
I did say that several times.
And that's what I was kind of leading towards, but no, that he ends up having to burn the money anyway and everything is just, like... Ugh. To me, I think, like, even though the pacing is a bit meh, like, the overall, like, cohesiveness, especially with, like, the ending and everything leading up to it and everything just getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, and the fact that it's more of, like, a unique type of thing, because this could easily be, like, a movie kind of like Leprechaun, where, like, you could have had, like, the fake FBI agent going around after, like, Billy Bob Thornton and the drunk dude and Bill Paxton, and the fact that they didn't and focused it on mainly, like, the members of, like, finding the money turning on each other, and then adding the whole, like, guy coming back for, like, his money at the end, just to, like, add even more, like, insult to injury, just, like, honestly kept me hooked throughout the entire thing. And it's kind of been a while that I've seen a movie that's actually, like, caught my interest throughout the entire thing. Like, especially like a movie I haven't seen.
It definitely does a good job at, like, despite how slow it is and how terribly they execute the plot, I don't think that it's an unmanageably slow watch. Again, I don't need to reiterate that the pacing is stupid. They could have executed this much better, but it doesn't make it unwatchable. And I think for me, that's why I'm struggling to rank it, right? I actually, the movie that I'm struggling to compare it to is Darkman here for either 4th or 5th. The ending is so good that I want to put it in 4th, but I think the pieces of it that are terrible are so terrible that, like, I think Darkman was a better executed movie, and I think that I think I'll regret putting it above Darkman. I think I'm going 5th tentatively. Again, ending is good despite the negatives I have for it. It still remains watchable. I just think that there are so many bad pieces of execution that Darkman, feeling like a cohesive, intentional movie, has to put it above this. But there are certainly still films that, like, are worse in Sam Raimi's catalog than this one.
I mean, let's face it. Nothing's gonna be as bad as It's Murder.
Real. I could have told you that before we watched the second film. It's Murder is the bottom, and it will remain the bottom. Yeah, I think fifth is a confident spot for me. I think I'm comfortable with that one.
Yeah, I mean, Dartman does have Liam Neeson breaking some dude's finger over a pink elephant. So
real. Can you argue with that? I think that's gonna wrap us up for this one. Stallman, what do we watch next week?
For the Love of the Game.
Hell yeah, dude. Kevin Costner in a baseball movie. Who's ever seen that before?
So another movie where So speaking of actors that kind of play the same character over and over again.
Kevin Costner in a baseball movie. Who could have possibly seen it coming? No, For the Love of the Game is an all-time favorite sports movie for me. So I'm going to enjoy it at least, but I'm very interested to critically rate it, I suppose. But as always, you can check out the rest of the YouTube channel for more of our content. There's a million more fucking movie podcasts to get through if there's other directors or topics that you're interested in. We also started with the Bond podcast, and it's a good place to fucking start. So go check all of those out.
Which, funny enough, thanks to the Bond podcast, technically like a John Glenn, starting out with John Glenn because most of his movies were
fuck
80s James Bond movies.
Fuck out of here. But there's also plenty of other content on this channel, and mostly gaming content, but the music podcast is also here. You should go check out everything that YouTube has to offer. If you're interested in our own personal content, you can find us both on Twitch. Stallman at Traductus, myself at Ted Green Eagles. Both of those will be linked below. Also, with the dissolution of Cringe Crew, there's also new Discords to join, and those should be linked in the bio below, so you can check those out if you're familiar, if you want to check in on other content in a more live format. With all that, we'll see you here next week for the Love of the Game, and in the meantime, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you here next week. Adios.